All right, here we go. Hello and welcome into the Section 109 podcast from Studio Breezy. I'm here with Sir Mix-a-Lot. Hey, buddy. Bobble Juan, Matthew, and our distinguished guest, CEO of Chattanooga Football Club, Alton Byrd. AB, welcome back to the studio.
Hey, Breezy. Hey, Matt. How are you?
We are wonderful. I'm wonderful, especially because you're here. Before we get started, if you're watching this on YouTube, consider a like and a subscribe. It does make us feel good, and it allows other people to end up with it in their algorithms. And if you're not watching on YouTube, consider it. Unfortunately, my face is on it, but you could also see Alton, which is a good thing.
Why do you think we have the dogs as well?
Yes, the dogs. Ella tends to put it on just to watch and see what shenanigans the dog got into. I don't know that she watches the whole episode, but sometimes I'll come in and she's got it on. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm watching Mix. It shows how much, I guess I'm chopped liver over there. Anyway, Matthew, I'm going to throw to you and let you start us off, because I know we kind of cut off in the middle last time, so I don't know quite where you want to start, but last time we got like halfway through our list of questions, and we had a whole lot more we wanted to talk about with Alton, so he's here for part 2.
Yeah, so we had originally intended on doing this podcast in the off season of 2023, heading into 2024, and then a lot of things happened.
Oh, what kind of things were those, Matthew?
Well, we joined a new league. We were dumped out of the playoffs just before we joined a new league, and then big changes on the roster side, and
we hired about 40 new employees.
Yeah, it's been I
don't know the real number, but
it's been a wild one. So if you want to listen to the first half of this podcast, you can go all the way back to, I don't know, it just disappeared here, but I'll find it and I'll give it to you.
So I think it's episode 120 if I remember right.
That would be an incredible job if you pulled that off.
Pretty sure that's right.
Anyway, we'll find it. So where we dropped off last time, we were talking about.
We're talking about how good shoes Alton has.
Yeah, seriously though, dripping style right now.
He pulled up in a blue car last time. We were like, ooh. He's like, new car. And we were like, pick the right color, and he's like, I did. It always looks good today, but blue, basically head to toe, always looking good choice in the shoes. I'm feeling like I need to really update my shoe game.
So where we left off last time was talking about working for the London Monarchs, NFL Europe, and working for Oliver Luck, whose son Andrew Luck was a legend at Stanford University, went to the Indianapolis Colts, had a good NFL career, retired suddenly, and a lot of people were pissed off about that. But I say enjoy yourself and don't lose your brain cells. And now is back as the general manager of Stanford football.
Andrew Luck is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That just happened.
Last week.
But also, Oliver Work was working for an NFL executive at the time by the name of Don Garber.
Yes.
And that was quite interesting. So we left you on the football side of things. Mm-hmm. So let's pick up your soccer journey from the NFL.
Professional executive journey.
Yeah, and as you moved towards the NBA.
So I left NFL Europe. I'm trying to think when that was now. That was a while. That was in 1997. And then I moved back to the States after 20 years of being in Europe.
How was that reverse culture shock?
It was a reverse culture shock. There's no two ways about it. And I think part of it is because culturally there's just so much more history in Europe. You're visiting places that are BC. When you go to the Wailing Wall and you go to Tel Aviv and you go to Athens and you stand at the Acropolis, even as a tourist, you kind of go, man, this never would have been in my plans as a 17-year-old in San Francisco. So you live in Europe, and it's ironic. I was watching a YouTube video yesterday of somebody who had left America and moved to Europe, and how different life is living in Europe, where people in Europe don't work to live. They don't live to work. They work
Right.
to live. So they have naps. They have siesta in the afternoon and 3-hour dinners, and then
6 weeks off vacation a year.
Yeah, it's like August shuts down, and
And there's just no productivity for an entire country for the month of August, and no one cares.
like I made the mistake of buying furniture in London that was produced in France, and I bought the furniture in June. And they said, you got no shot of getting that furniture until October or November. I said, why? It's like, because there's nobody in France to make it in August. Everybody's at the beach. And I was like, how does that work? And then I realized, like, I kind of like how that works.
There's something
That's
to it.
humanity. That's normal. What I'm doing isn't normal. So when I moved back to work for the Sacramento Kings. I was head of sponsorship and broadcast for the Kings.
What did that entail?
So I did all strategic alliance, corporate partnership, sponsorship. I was kind of the brand, how can I put it, the brand police. Made sure that people weren't using our marks illegitimately, creating new partnerships, building new relationships with both local and regional partners, and then I also managed broadcast. So I handled all of the talent broadcast, the production broadcast, the broadcast deals, our TV deal, our radio deals, all of those. So I did all of that.
So does that mean like you were doing basically corporate partnerships, or what we would call corporate partnerships here throughout the week, and then on game day you were like over the broadcast? Is that like a fair?
I didn't have to do broadcast production, but I did hire the broadcast production lead. And
they reported to you.
And they reported to me, but I was also, what happens in the programming, what happens in our television programming. And so it was a really interesting time. And by the way, the Kings were, I call them the Warriors 1.0.
Was this when Vlade Divac was there?
When we had Vlade, Peja, Doug Christie, Jason Williams, Chris Webber, Lawrence Funder. Like, it was they were the front cover of Sports Illustrated as the most exciting team in professional basketball, which they were.
Peja Stojakovic was one of my favorite players growing up.
And so I did that. And then I left 16 months later and decided I'm going to go on my own. And for 11 years, I ran my own business, a multicultural marketing business. I became and built an executive coaching business. So I coached some CEOs and around not only lifestyle, but problem solving and things like that. So I did that for 11 years. And the multicultural marketing company I had, which was called Clear Focus, we handled all of the Diageo products in California. I don't know if you knew this. The state of California is either the third or fourth largest alcohol market in the world. Not in the States, in the world. Because, obviously, the state of California is big. Yeah. Southern California drinks a lot of everything. They drink tequila, they drink gin. And we did all of their multicultural promotions for 6 years with Diageo. So
wow,
my company had Crown Royal, Tanqueray, Bailey's, Smirnoff, Cuervo, and the early launch of Ciroc. So this was Ciroc before it got all the flavors, and we did all the in-store promotions. We did all the event promotions. We did tours as they came to California. So we did a tour with John Legend with Bailey's, and Jill Scott with Bailey's, and Mike Epps with Tanqueray. So it was a lot, and we did the whole state. And I also did multicultural marketing for Macy's in California and Colorado. So I did that for 11 years, and then I got a call from The Dream in Atlanta in 2013 saying we want to hire a chief revenue officer, and I didn't know if I wanted to go back into working for somebody. I'd kind of gotten used to after 11 years of working for myself. And then I moved to Atlanta. And I never in my life said I wanted to live in the South. If you're Californian, moving to the South is like, what? That's like going to the other side of the moon.
Yeah.
But, Atlanta's an interesting place. I didn't know what to expect, and Atlanta is very diverse, and it's a big place. And in my estimation, in terms of traffic, it is by far either number one or 1A in terms of worst traffic on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
LA and Atlanta are about like even, right? But we spent 3 years there, enjoyed the experience. Culturally, it was very different. And then
before you go on, so you took a job with the Atlanta Dream in the WNBA after owning your own company.
Yes.
For 11 years.
Yes.
What happened to that company?
I just stopped. I stopped. I took the job, and the intention was I would still have somebody run it for me. But after 6 years of Diageo, our main contact passed away, who was the lead for multicultural marketing. And then I went and did 2.5 years with Jim Beam. So that was one business. And then our coaching business was a business called Think, Feel, Know, which was an offshoot of a company in the UK called Sherlaws. And they did business coaching. So they took business entities and taught them growth and taught them stages and taught them context and really kind of helped them use frameworks to grow their business. But in 2013, I kind of said, do you want to get back in sports or do you not want to get back in sports? And I got a call from the Dream and they said, hey.
So were you already thinking about it a little bit?
I was thinking about it. And, to be honest, I just couldn't get my head around whether I really wanted to do that. And I was in California and I didn't know if I wanted to leave California because, California is different.
And it's home.
It's
or
home
at least
for me.
where you're were born and raised.
Yeah, and I was closer to my mom, but my mom passed away in 2008, and my sister and I decided to sell the family home in 2010, and so she then moved to Sacramento, and then this job came, and so there was a lot going on family wise.
Yeah,
and little by little, the things like tying you down were kind of
and
it's like you just wind down the business.
Yeah, I wound down the business. And, I took the job thinking, I'll be in Atlanta for a couple of years and then I'll go somewhere else. And as it ended up, I started in 2013 and left in 2016. And I left and landed in Brooklyn. And that was the beginning of, that was a lot.
I mean, you've been in a lot of big cities, side note.
Yes.
Born and raised San Francisco.
Yeah.
New York for college.
Yes.
Then London and bounced around, but London for a portion of your playing career and coaching and whatever else. Then Atlanta, which is not a small city at all.
Sacramento.
Yep.
Bigger than you think.
Yes, it is.
True.
There's
That's
a lot
fair.
of similarities between Sacramento and Chattanooga. You'd be surprised. It's a very Midwestern feel type of city. It's very green, like here. There is a heavy religious kind of environment in Sacramento. It is the state capital of California, so there's a lot of state employees, and it has grown substantially in the last 10 years. In the last 15 years, some of the suburbs of Sacramento are bigger than Chattanooga. So Elk Grove, Roseville, some of the places that you would be like, man, they nearly 200,000 people live in Elk Grove. And when I first moved to Sacramento in 1999, there were 37,000 people. So they've grown, and Roseville's grown similarly, which is north of Sacramento.
Well, the Sacramento media market's one of the largest media markets.
Well, and you know why that is, Breezy? They have Sacramento and Stockton, and they count that as a media market. And so Stockton's
huge, right?
40 minutes away from Sacramento down the freeway, but they count that as one market. So those two demographic areas is north of 1 million folks.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. So
did Stockton have the Sacramento's G League team?
No, they didn't. They didn't have the Stockton Kings until 2015, 14, 15, 16. By the time I got to by the time I got to Brooklyn and started the Long Island Nets, Stockton came on board probably 2 years after that. So they're only 5 or 6 years old.
Okay, interesting.
So when you go to Brooklyn, do you know you're going there to start the Long
Yes.
Island Nets? Is that the reason you took that job?
Yes. They wanted to start. They had a G League team before, and then they decided they wanted one closer, so they bought a new franchise. They sold the franchise they had, or they let it go when it was the CBA or whatever the league was, and they decided we want to create a G League franchise that is really about development.
Are there independent? This is probably a really silly question, but are there independent teams in the G League?
Not anymore.
Were there at one point?
Yeah, there were. The G League has been through all kind of metamorphosis over the last 25 years. They had independent teams, and they had hybrid teams. They had some teams that were owned by different entities in different states. And so the league finally said, we want all of our teams to be affiliated. And they finally got to 30 for 30. And then they added the team in Mexico City. With the view, everything you see in the NBA has a plan behind it.
Yeah, like they want a long-term Mexico City franchise in the NBA.
Franchise in Mexico City, because there are very few places where there's 16 million folks who love basketball.
Yeah, that's arguably more important than like bringing back the Seattle Sonics and stuff like that, right?
Well, easy.
and you can't really say that because there are folks from Seattle.
I know Seattle.
Like, where does Caniglio live again? What?
I'm just caught it like I see it.
Yeah. So, the 30 for 30 now, every team has a G League team.
Any of them hybrid, or are they all owned and run?
They're all owned. The Nuggets team is based in Grand Rapids, so they bought 51% of that team. So now all of these teams, the Celtics team is in Portland, the Nets team is in
Portland, Maine.
Yeah. And which, I don't know if you read Sports Business Journal, but it's number one minor league city in the world, in the United States.
Yeah, there's a soccer team starting there.
Correct.
I know of it. Yeah. I just don't.
But they've got a hockey team that's apparently very popular there. They've got a soccer team. They've got a baseball team.
You see the jerseys for the new soccer team? Yeah. I'm not a jersey snob, so but when I saw that branding kit, and I was like, wow. Yeah. I mean, if you don't look at that and go, wow, I want to know what you like, because, it is exceptional.
So the league has evolved. I went and started that. Then I got involved in 2K, which is the NBA's effort to acquire fans at a much younger age. You'd be surprised how many NBA fans, their first touch of NBA basketball was through NBA 2K.
That's actually, I don't think I would be surprised, because FIFA's so much that way for soccer fans.
Right.
He was, you're part of your soccer fandom starts with FIFA, right? Like,
yeah,
for you really liking it. Like,
right.
Spurs fandom comes from
100% comes from FIFA.
Yeah.
Just playing the game.
Most leagues now, even the NFL with Madden, most people's first connection with the NFL is like the Madden cover was the reason people got out of bed early on the day of launch. I got to know who's going to be on the cover.
And who's cursed.
Right? And 2K, popular, not as popular as FIFA, but outside of FIFA, 2K is the one thing you can go ask some kid, do you play 2K? And almost every one of them does.
It's having a resurgence right now, isn't it?
I just picked it up. I needed an extra video game.
No, because I had some friends telling me they were playing 2K again, but I didn't know if that was just a couple of my friends or if that was...
Well, I ran our 2K team with the Nets gaming crew. And it's funny because I think the NBA is going to reposition 2K. Not every team. There were 24 teams that had 2K teams.
Esports teams?
Yeah, that had esports teams with the intention that how do you create new fans, younger fans, and 2K was the way to do it.
So were they streaming? What were they
streaming? We had a deal with not only Twitter, but what's the other one?
Twitch.
We had corporate sponsors. Snickers was a sponsor. We had literally, this was a real league, and certainly Washington, the Wizards, Monumental Sports built a gaming area, kind of gaming facility that you could go and play in tournaments, and they had the NBA 2K finals there, and they turned it. The league turned it into an enormous thing that was really cool. Lots of influencers. A lot of NBA players play 2K day in, day out. And so you could be playing 2K, find out that Kevin Durant, when he was with us, was playing against our players like every day, even though he wasn't supposed to be playing against our players because the collective bargaining agreement doesn't allow him to play against our players. So they had to change the collective bargaining agreement so that the players could benefit from name, image, and likeness that was in the game that we were playing, that they were playing.
That's wild.
So I did that.
Were you there when KD was having his whole controversy with being on the internet and having burner accounts?
Yeah, we were like that. That period.
And was that a weird time?
That period of time with the Nets was number one. I think our organization pushed all our chips in because I don't think anybody knew, and I don't think we knew that Kevin and Kyrie were going to say, "I'm going to the Nets on signing day," in 2000 and whatever it was, 2021. We knew we had a really good organization, and our GM Sean Marks had built this kind of. That's where I want to go to play. We had a bunch of overachievers. We had some really good people. They played together, and everybody in the league saw it and went, "That's where I want to play," because they play the right way. Kevin, Kyrie, and then later James. And they all showed up, and then all of a sudden, there was a lot going on. That's the best I can tell you.
Yeah.
There's a lot that went on. We were very lucky on the G League side because we could develop the Nick Claxtons and some of these guys that, ended up now starters. And so, I'll just say to people that the G League is a better league than people think, because if you're not a top 5 guy, you'll be playing some minutes in the G League. You have to. You're not going to get enough minutes playing with the parent club, so they need a place. And the teams that are continuously and always good in the NBA usually have very good G League franchises. The Celtics have a really good G League franchise in Portland. The Mavericks have one every 2 out of 3 years. They usually have 2 or 3 guys that end up with the Mavs. And we were lucky. One year we had the executive of the year, Trajan Langdon, who is now the president of basketball ops for the Pistons. Matt Riccardi, who was the GM for 2 years, is now assistant GM with the Mavericks. J.R. Holden is now vice president of basketball ops with the Pistons. We had 2 coaches of the year. Will Weaver was one. We've got coaches and players all over the place.
So it acted as a real proving ground, not only for players, but also for executives.
Correct.
And coaches.
And the idea and the model is similar to where we are as a football club. How do we develop players and coaches to either stay with the idea of winning or to win, develop, move on, and then be that place. Yeah, be the place where people can. They do it the right way. Their players are always consistent. There is a way that they play, and they develop good people and they develop good players.
What do you think are some of the things that make a place that? Because not a lot of places can't be that. So how do we be that, and what are some of the things that really good organizations do?
Well, I think you're already that. I think Chattanooga's already that. Just look at the number of people who played here and stayed here. Right? Mm-hmm. That's number one. Think of the number of coaches who have gone somewhere else and they look back at Chattanooga and they went, "Yeah, I really loved it there. I wish I could have stayed there. I wish times were different." And so I think we're already that. I think we are just at the precipice of developing young players who will ultimately move on. That might be another 3, 4, 5 years, but I think we're going to get and attract young players. And hopefully in the next 3, 4, 5 years, we develop our own. Because we won't be successful as a club, as a development tool, until we develop a player every year, maybe a player every 2 years that maybe doesn't get sold on, but goes on to be something great. And they point back and go, if you want to play for somebody that's going to develop you as a human being, as a player, you'd go to Chattanooga. You wouldn't go somewhere else. You'd go to Chattanooga. The environment's right. The weather's right. The playing facility's right. All of the things that you would look for as a 17-year-old or 23-year-old, it's in Chattanooga.
Beautiful. That's a great pitch, by the way.
Yeah,
If I was a young player, I'm excited and I'm way outside of my playing time.
we're gonna clip that for sure and start using that on the internet to advertise. So it's 2023. You've been with the Nets for seven years or whatever it is. A CEO job at Chattanooga Football Club gets posted. What made you decide to apply?
I think there's a couple of things. Number one, growth opportunity. Number two, an opportunity to lead an organization. I've been a leader in an organization, but the opportunity to lead one, top to bottom, north, east to west, to build something that I think the city and the organization could be proud of. And I think I had the requisite experience to begin building something that was sustainable. And I like to challenge. I think if you look at my career, why on God's green earth, I lived a block away from the University of San Francisco. Would I go 3,000 miles to Columbia? Like, my mom asked me that every year that she was alive. Like, why don't you just go to school around the corner? You could walk to school. Nope. Well, if you could get into Columbia, why can't you go to Stanford or Berkeley? Nope. You go to New York. If you're going to do it big. So I went to, and then why would I go to London? Why would I move to Edinburgh? Why would I move to Manchester? Those were all, I'm a curious seeker of experiences. And so I moved to Sacramento and everybody said, you're nuts. Why would you move to Sacramento? Why wouldn't you just move back to San Francisco? So I guess my career, my life has been about experiences. And you know how you apply and you kind of go, yeah, not a chance. They would look at me for this role. So when I got the phone call, I was like, are you kind of serious? And they were like, yeah, your resume looks like. And so I went through the process, and I guess as you get down the road, you kind of look and go, there's some opportunity. I saw the stadium.
What were your first impressions of Chattanooga in person? I'm assuming you hadn't been in many years or maybe ever since.
I had never been here. I had never been to Tennessee at all. And so I got here and I went, this is interesting. Okay.
Was it what you expected? Was it completely different?
It was completely different than what I expected. And I lived on Long Island for 6 years, and Long Island is very different than New York City.
Sure.
They're very different places. And Long Island wasn't like anything that I had experienced before. So it was an interesting, this was kind of like when I moved from London and I moved to Sacramento, it was night and day. London's a cosmopolitan, 12 million people live within an hour of Trafalgar Square. It's trains, planes, and automobiles. So it was like, wow. And so I got here, and it was just an unusual kind of completely different experience. And so, when I did it and I got here and I came for interviews, and I was like, well, somebody said to me, you might not want to live too far out of town because of traffic. And I was like,
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about, traffic? I've lived in New York and London, and that's traffic.
Not to mention Atlanta.
Yeah. Those are traffic. This is not traffic.
But now that you've been here for 18 months, you understand what we were talking about.
Yeah, I think it's all relative. It's contextual. If it takes you 13 minutes to go somewhere here versus 9, that's traffic to people that lives here.
Absolutely.
that same journey in New York, you could leave with the anticipation that on your wayfinder, whatever it is, on your directions, it says 52 minutes. That could mean 2 hours in New York. So it's always contextual. So I tend to kind of look at it and go, yeah, that's not traffic. There's and nothing in Chattanooga is that far.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny. You can kind of tell how long someone's been in Chattanooga by how much they complain about the traffic.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like if you've been here forever, like you grew up here, you think the traffic is just terrible now.
Right.
And then if you're a transplant from somewhere else or you grew up somewhere with more traffic, you look at those people and I watch it in conversation where you have a group of people and like somebody like, this traffic is so bad now, and somebody will look at them and be like, what, you spent 16 extra minutes? Like what, like you know that like going 6 miles in LA at the wrong time is like 2.5 hours.
correct.
Like,
That's and every time I think about traffic here, I always think like it could take you 2 hours to go 4 miles in LA. It could take you 2 hours to get up I-75 from downtown Atlanta to Buckhead.
yeah.
So
And you can get here to Buckhead in 2 hours.
Correct. So I always think it's contextual.
For sure.
And so Chattanooga has lots of similarities to Sacramento. Like it's green, it's healthy, it's clean living, it's all of the things that, you kind of don't think about when you move here. And then this city is in the nexus of 4 major cities.
Yeah.
So if there's ever not enough to do in Chattanooga, you get in your car and you go where you want to go. And they're all very different experiences. Knoxville is very different than Birmingham.
Yeah.
And Nashville is very different than Atlanta. But they're all like, I've spent a lot of time or some time in Nashville, and it's a really interesting city. It's a very interesting city. Atlanta, we already knew because I lived there. So,
So you can go back there and visit friends, but maybe you're not heading down there for a lot of tourism.
yeah. No, you don't go for tourism. You go for food or you go for a show. Like,
What part of town did you end up moving into here?
I'm literally downtown. I'm not a good commuter, which you probably have to do so. I like walkability, and I also don't like to drive unless I have to drive. I like driving, but if I'm driving, I'm going to drive a long distance. So I moved downtown with the intent, like, if myself and my wife wanted to go somewhere and we wanted to go eat and it's 7:00 at night, I don't have to get in my car to go get something to eat. I can literally fall out of our spot, walk 400 steps, get something to eat, walk 400 steps back, and that's it.
I love that.
Speaking of which, any favorite spots, walking distance or not, you found in Chattanooga to eat?
Yeah, I made a list of places we like. So, have you ever been to the Company?
I have not. Where's that at?
It's in the Kinley Hotel. That
Oh,
should be.
I know where that is. I've not been there.
It's kind of like a speakeasy.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
in the
I have
back.
not. I've
It's
seen.
kind of like one of those, if we were going to have a secret meeting and you don't want anybody to know, and it's dark, but it's a cool place and it's got good food and you can get in and out of there and you can sit in the back. It's a real speakeasy. State of Confusion's a good place.
It's a great spot.
We found a new place out at Hamilton Place, sports bar, Malone's, and the place next to it.
Oh,
not
yeah.
bad.
The place next to it's really good. They're connected. One's a proper restaurant. The other one is a sports bar.
Yeah.
And
I
we-
keep meaning to go in there. I've been told several times by several different people it's great.
Yeah, if you like sports bar, real sports bar, that's a real sports
So, like on an NFL Sunday, if you're trying to catch
Yes.
NFL, it's a great place to
Correct.
go.
Yes,
And it's
sir.
that's not Buffalo Wild Wings.
Correct.
Which
It's-
sponsor, we love you, Buffalo Wild Wings, but it's not always where you want to go.
That
You might
is
want
correct.
something different.
That is correct. And so we have found like literally 10 This is a real foodie place.
Yeah.
And it's surprising because I tell people this is a foodie place and they go, huh? And I was like, it's probably like 25 spots in Chattanooga that you can go and eat and go, this place doesn't belong in Chattanooga. This is a New York restaurant. it's got Chattanooga prices, but it presents itself as
A big city, really.
St. John's is good. Like,
Yeah.
now that they've moved, Gilman Grill's another one. Easy Bistro's like they're up.
Easy Bistro. I haven't been since they moved, which tells you I haven't been in a while. But man, that was one of my favorite spots.
Greatest, best French fries on the planet.
I don't
Easy
think
Bistro.
I don't think I've had the fries.
They
I've
have
usually go for
wedges.
breakfast.
They have wedges. You got to go. Like,
All right,
I will
all right.
treat the two of you because the wedges are
Deal. He said it on camera.
the wedges are unbelievable.
Okay,
So,
I'm sold on that one.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have it answers the question. One of the questions in the food section.
Yeah.
Best French fries.
Best French fries, definitely Easy Bistro.
Okay, so before we dive into more CFC related, if you were to suddenly, or I guess, or in your basketball career, let's say you were suddenly gifted with all kinds of soccer playing abilities, like professional level soccer playing abilities, what position would you have wanted to play?
Central midfield.
The point guard in you is coming out?
Correct. And so, like, I think one of the best players in the world is Kevin De Bruyne. Now, why?
We agree. We agree.
Yeah.
But, well, and it's the way, the reason City has been so good for so long is because Rodri and Kevin De Bruyne have been the two best players in their position in the world. And so it helps, Erling Haaland is, he's
an
really
alien.
good.
They were winning before him.
Correct. And it's because the way they controlled. So I look at it is the way you control between the boxes is the same way you control between the foul lines. Mm-hmm. And if you can control between the foul lines, you got to have a big that protects the rim. You got to have a great goalkeeper that can protect. You also have to have a great Virgil van Dijk who is really good as a central defender. But central midfield, where you sit in the middle and it's 360, and the really good central midfielders are distributing the ball, they're holding the ball, they're making sure that there's the decisive passes. Like, I love the way Trent Alexander-Arnold makes two telling passes. He may not do anything else for the game, but he makes two. And he's not a central midfielder. They tried to play him in midfield, and it doesn't really work out. He's not really a right back either. But his ability to pass the ball, Kevin, so that's where I would have been, central midfield. I think I would have been an attacking central midfielder because most people like to score. But I think my strength would have been distributing the ball.
Beautiful.
Okay. Let's do one more of these and let's move on. What percentage of soccer is mental and what percentage is physical? And is that number different for you thinking about basketball?
I think 80% of soccer is in your head. I think once you get to critical physical, are you in shape? Are you fit? Can you stay fit? I think 80% of it is in your head and how efficient you become as a player. Mm. When you're young, you like to run. You think you can overcome everything by
running.
Just outrun you. I'm faster than you, so I'll outrun you.
If you get past me, I'll catch you.
Right. I can spot you 10 yards and still catch you. But I do think that the peak level of fitness and the peak level where your physical skills and your mental skills match is between 28 and 32. Might be a little younger for football players. Like it might be 26 to 30 because I think so much of the game is how efficient can you be? How can you use the field? What are your angles? And basketball is not dissimilar. Basketball is a game of angles. So is football. Mm-hmm. There's so many similarities. One ball, so many similarities, angles, triangles, boxes, squares, like you just watch the game. And so for me, when I watch football, I see it as how much you see the game in advance of it happening? And can you visualize that and make yourself more efficient as opposed to chasing your tail? Like, young players can chase their tail pretty fast. Older players kind of go, yeah, I'll wait till he comes back. I'll sit tight right here and wait till he comes back. So I do think it's a lot of football is really in your head and how you see the game, and then how you match the game with your physical attributes, not the other way around.
It's gotta be a pretty good time to be a Liverpool fan right now.
Yeah, it is.
Going from arguably the best coach on earth to somehow a coach that seems almost as good or just as good. I know it's early, but
it is early, and every time I watch them, I kind of go, they're not the same team.
no, they're not. He's remade them,
But
but not fully. Like just enough.
But you almost know that you watch them, it's got, like, their expected goal rate must be fairly high, and you know that Mo Salah has a chance to score twice every game. Bar none, he has a chance to score twice. And if they found another striker to play alongside of him who was consistent, not Darwin Nunez and not, but if they found somebody else, oh my God, they might score 4 or 5 a game. So
Yeah, Salah's arguably having the best season of his career.
yes.
When he's supposed to be washed.
And they finally made him a contract offer. Finally.
I was just about to make the joke of it's a contract year.
It is a contract year.
Yes, it is.
We know how that goes.
Virgil van Dijk is having arguably his best year, and it's a contract year. Trent Alexander-Arnold, it's a contract year.
I mean, there's something to that.
Yep.
What was it like when you were in contract years as a player? Did you feel that difference? Or did you feel that difference from other players?
I didn't, because I kind of knew, like, as long as I could stay healthy, I'd earn more money either next year or 2 years from now. I can also tell you that players think it's never going to end. As you're a player, you always think, I'll be able to play until I'm 50, right? And then you realize you're one injury away from retirement. And I don't think enough players understand that. I ruptured my Achilles tendon, and there wasn't a person alive that said, that didn't say, you probably never come back from that. And I was running again in 5.5 months. I was like, yeah, I'm coming back.
You played games like 9 months later, right?
I did.
We touched on that last time, and when I was re-listening to it, I was wishing we had done that podcast. But I'm not wishing Aaron Rodgers' injury on him, but it would have been fun to be like beat that Aaron Rodgers, because like 9 months, man, is wild.
And I was intentional about coming. Now they have far more ways to recover, and it's really fancy now. Like when I recovered, it was like grind. You get in the weight room, you do things they tell you not to do. You walk when they tell you shouldn't walk. Yeah. Like if you wanted to come back, I played 2 weeks after an arthroscopy. And everybody's like, yeah, we'll reevaluate in 6 weeks. I'm like, no, I'm playing in a couple of weeks.
That's the athlete in you.
Yeah. And so I
had
2 on each knee that I played 2 weeks after. So like I've had 4 knee surgeries and a rupture, and it's like, I just knew I was going to play again. And it's different for small players than it is for big players. Big players have, catastrophic injuries with knees and ankles, and like it's really hard because there's more of them. For me, there wasn't a lot of me, 160, 170 pounds when I was playing. So recovery for me was very, very different than a 6'7", 220-pound power forward or small forward or point guard who tears up his knee. Like, it might be a year for them. For me, not so much.
Yeah, totally.
Interesting. Okay. So you've been on the job now. We're coming on 18 months.
Yeah.
What's the thing that stands out most for you that surprised you once you got into the job?
I marveled at how this club made everything work without exhaustive resources. How together the community was around the club, and the foundation, the solid foundation that it brought. I was pleasantly surprised. And I think overall, if you call 10 of your friends in different parts of the country and guys that I ran G League teams with and people that run NBA teams, and they go, yeah, I heard of that team. Like, they're pretty good. Like, they're really good. And they get all these fans. And I was like, yeah. Like, it's like you're surprised at how many people outside the market know more about this team than some of the people in the market. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a tribute to what's happened on the field, some of the coaches you've had, some of the players you've had, and the kind of grassroots behaviors of a city that doesn't have lots of professional teams. So you don't have an NBA team you're competing with. You don't have an NFL team. And the Titans are in Nashville and the Hawks are in Atlanta. And there's UT, which you could call a professional sports organization.
They certainly are now.
Yeah.
They have become one for sure.
And so I was surprised at how invested people were in the franchise and in the team and the organization. And how many people outside the market knew. And so those were all really good surprises. And, it wasn't like you were coming and saying, okay, we're going to start a team in September and let's go. And, okay, you got to find people and you got to find a marketing strategy. And like we did on Long Island. Luckily on Long Island, just to draw the parallel, there was a New York Nets team with a guy named Julius Erving that had been 30 years before or 40 years before. That was different, but everybody knew who the Nets was on Long Island. So it was a little bit different, but we were going there to restart what effectively was the legacy of the Nets. It started there and then moved to New Jersey and then moved to Brooklyn. So I was pleasantly surprised at how all of this came together. I knew what the project was, and I knew what kind of work we were going to have to do to scale. And as impatient as we might be, I also realize it takes a while to build Rome. We all want it to be built in a day, and we know it's a 3-year, and it's step by step, and you try not to skip steps, and you try and remind people like, hey, it took years to get from here to here. It didn't just happen overnight.
Kind of along those lines, what are some of the goals that you have for the club? The question says in the next couple of months. Let's say by the time the season starts in March.
I think number one is to confirm and build on the foundation we built last season, to get our strategy and tactics in place for, think about the pieces of our business, ticket sales and service, corporate partners and activations, merchandise, and possibly a new store. Like, think about all the things. What strategies are we going to have to get that to be more engaged? Marketing, what are we doing in the community? What are we doing with finance? What are we doing with legal? Like, think about this in KPI terms and really build strategy in the next 30 to 45 days that give us the roadmap to be more successful. I think the overriding thing really for us is progress. We made progress in 18 months. And what else can we do to make more progress in the next 18 months with the goal of sustainability? Like the long-term sustainability of this club financially. Where are we going to get? I look at us as right now we're 3,700 fans a game. I got 19,000 seats to fill. How do I get there? And can I do it 3 years, 5 years, 7 years? But imagine if 10,000 folks are showing up every night and you have big games where 19,000 folks are showing up, financial model is a little different.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
We have, half dozen 6 or 7 figure partners and not 3. Like you just start thinking about how do we build that, and most importantly, what kind of people resources are we going to need to do that?
When do you start setting goals for your teams? Because obviously everything, I'm sure, trickles down kind of as you set. Does it start the day the season ends? Does it start the day the new year starts? Like, when do goals kind of, I know it's a very nerdy question, but when do goals kind of start wrapping up and then repositioning for the year?
So we finished this year on decision day, October 6th. Everybody had, for the most part, the next week off. And I started thinking, let's think about opening day, opening weekend for 2025. And it's whatever, March 9th or March 16th. Last year was March 16th. Let's work back from that and see how many days there are. And if they're 150 or 130 or 100. Hey, guys. Hey, everybody. You think off season is the off season, but the reality is part of why partnerships become more valuable is because we have season of giving. We do something for Thanksgiving. We do Black Friday. We do there's an ongoing, our off season should be busier than our season. And that's how you create value for partners. You create value for season ticket holders. You give them a reason to connect. You have them stay connected. So October, whatever the date was, it was the 6th, 13th. October 14th, we were all in on planning for 2025. What are our uniforms going to look like? What's the Black Friday sale going to look like? What's the Christmas offer? What are our season ticket holders? What do we need to engage them? What do we need to attract new fans, younger fans, older fans, all new? We are already, planned for 2025. What are we going to do for opening day? Do we want to try and break the record for attendance in MLS? We could do it. This team could probably put 12,000 folks in for opening day, right? So we think about everything in our business on October 14th with the view that there's only 130 days. And now you say to our staff, okay, we closed for Thanksgiving. We will close for Christmas to let people or to have people spend time with their families. And in January, first week of January, either a week later or 2 weeks later, everybody's back again. And the grind begins. So there's I think there's the strategy of, and that's a big change for this club. Usually the season's over and I'll see you in February.
Yeah, we used to be an amateur club. We had 9 months of off season and 3 months, if the season went well, of season.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's now flipped because now you have 10 months of a season with a couple of breaks and, All-Star being one. I think next summer you'll have a Club World Cup break for MLS teams and even us. But then, we also have responsibilities to the community. We have responsibilities to, sell merch, and the merch can be sold year round. And how do we get creative with that? And so, we started October 14th planning for 2025. We have a really good young team, and they've really been thoughtful about it. We had time we didn't have last year. Because you guys remember, we ended November 12th.
And joined a new league.
And joined a new league on November 14th. And, partnership sales, the sales lead time, the cycle is not, it's not a transaction. If you're going to be a partner with us, you want to get to know us. We want to get to know you. Does it fit? Do our goals align? Do our values align? And sometimes that could be 3, 6, 9 months. Sometimes it's a year. And so the peak selling time for partnership sales is September to December. That's when budgets get created. Actually, it's July to December, because that's when budgets get formatted. Hey, what are you thinking about this? What are you thinking about that? What do you think about partnering with CFC? We want to partner with the academy. Now that we're managing the academy, it's ongoing. Like Riverfest was 200 teams.
That's awesome.
That's the biggest tournament in the Southeast. Even bigger than the state tournament.
Well,
and we weren't managing that last year. So we launched November 14th, new league. So we'd missed the majority of partnership sales for 2024. And the fact that we made some progress, I'm proud of what we got a chance to accomplish.
not just progress. I'm going to go through the list here because this is going to lead to my next question. 20% growth in attendance from 2023 to 2024. This might be a rough number, but we kind of doubled our sponsorship.
We did.
Partnership, sir.
Partnerships, I'm sorry.
How dare you?
CFC HQ got launched.
Yep.
Groundbreaking was in the summer.
Yep.
And if you drive by, you can see that work is like
Moving.
very tangible now.
My favorite thing about that is a lot of times groundbreakings happen and then nothing happens for 6 months because a lot of times it's like, oh, now we have to get permits and do all this other shit. And like the demolition was the next day.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I got to give a shout out to Thomas Clark, man, because like he has been all over it. And every time you drive by, you go, for some reason or other, I could see Thomas standing out here whipping, like snapping the whip, like, hey, get started. Be here at 8:30. And I'm like, what they've done in 3 months or 4 months since we started is like, I drove by there the other day and I said to my wife, I was like, you realize that was dirt. That like there was this building that was there. Then the next day,
It was
building
not there.
Gone. I was so shocked.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
But
yeah.
if you think about it, we're projected to move in January 2026.
Correct.
So we got 13 months. Okay, so we've got CFC HQ. The front office, we mentioned it earlier, has grown by like 20, 25 humans. I can't keep track of y'all anymore.
Yep.
We joined MLS Next Pro. That's, I guess, from your original tenure.
We left NISA.
Yeah, we left. NISA.
Also an accomplishment.
We joined MLS Next Pro. The academy is starting the process. Well, number one, the academy came under the club.
Right.
The academy has also now joined MLS Next.
Yes.
The MLS Academy platform.
And next year is when the teams debut in MLS?
Yes. So summer academic school year, that turnover will be the first couple of teams in MLS Next, with subsequent teams being added each year.
Yeah.
Cool.
We also had in at least this year, we had a men's coaching change.
Yep.
Which took the head coach and sporting director position and split them.
Yes.
And we can talk about that in a little bit. Yep. We had a women's coaching change also happen as a result of all that. That is a lot of stuff.
It is. Trust me. I will share, like last week, we actually shared with, the front office and football ops team the accomplishments of 2024. And I think at the end, once I'd made the presentation, they all walked away and they all went, we did all that? I was like, yes, we did that. I didn't do it. Our team did this. There are a lot of different components, but we integrated new staff. We integrated staff that had never had professional sports experience.
A lot
of people who didn't have professional sports experience. We integrated creatives. We integrated a new marketing manager. We integrated, we did 150 events in the community.
I was going to ask about that because I'd forgotten that number.
We had over 150 events. We did 27 soccer clinics for affiliate clubs around Chattanooga. If you think about how our social media has grown, thanks to you guys, but thanks to fans and thanks to new followers and people who had never followed us before, we do a monthly newsletter to 3,200 owners. That had never happened before, and people were like, thank you, because I had no idea what you guys are doing. I do an owner-founder update monthly, which allows people who have really been involved from the start to look at what we do every month. And, they're kind of like, man, you guys do a lot in a month. They're like, well, we're not over here just chilling. Like, to build a professional sports organization that has a men's team, a women's team, and now, people forget how big the academy is, like 40-something, 47, 48 youth teams and 750 players and 45 coaches. And like, that takes work. We had one full-time employee with the academy in 2022. Now we have 5 full-time with the academy in 2024.
That's awesome.
And that's going to continue to rise.
There's only one way for our academy to go. And look, I think all of our dream is one day you don't have 800 players, you have 3,800 players, and they're all playing at a level they can play at. Knowing that like any sport, there's going to be an elite 1 or 2% that can play at MLS next level, with the view that one day they're playing in the first team. Now, that might be 3 years from now, 5 years from now. I don't know. I think we got the right guy that'll help us develop that in Sebastian Giraldo, who has lots of experience developing that. So, and I think this will sound crazy. The fastest growth area for our club is on the women's side. Our girls' teams are marginally better than our boys' teams. And we got the right guy doing that with Juan Hernandez. So the convergence of all this in the last 18 months has been surprising. But, the club had good people in it. And the club wanted to grow. I know Davis wanted to grow. And it was just a question of, can we make progress and be efficient doing it? We learned a lot last year about what we invested in and what worked and what didn't work. And so I ask 3 questions of the staff every day. What's working, what's not working, and what's missing? And let's not overcomplicate this. Let's stop doing what doesn't work. Let's do what's working and figure out what's missing and do more of that.
Along those lines, what are some things that we need to do, or that we're working on for the future? Maybe for sustainability, or like, we did the CFCHQ, like that is happening now.
Yeah. And that's huge.
And, that's a big
deal. And for
deal.
most clubs, that would be done for a few years.
Right.
What's next?
Well, I think number one is continue to invest in our people who work front office, the coaches, the players, because people drive all of this. Nothing else matters except people who drive all of this. And I think our people, if we continue to invest in their continuous learning, their continuous growth, that we will retain a high number who won't be unfamiliar with the culture and what we do and how we go about doing it and the things that Davis really wants from his club, because he's the owner, right? I think if we continue to invest in our people, they will then invest in better processes, more efficient processes. Look, dude, it's not a secret. You sell more tickets, create more corporate partnerships, sell more sponsorship, or I should say sell more merch, and grow the academy to the extent that we can develop our own players, and then keep winning, because winning will help drive all of that, yeah. Right? So if you're fortunate enough to get good enough that you can add Darwin Ortiz or 5 of them, and they play through your system, and one day you look up and he's on the field, and I don't know, Manchester United says, we like the kid, we'd like to buy him. We create our own Kevin Sullivan. We create our own players, and we continue to hold, Matt, in my estimation, a club where if you want to play, you can play. You never have to go somewhere else to play, no matter what level. If you're a beginner, we got a place for you. If you're an intermediate, we got a place for you. If you're elite, we got a place for you. And if you want to go to college, we'll help you get there. If you want to be a pro, we'll help you get there. If you want to coach, we'll help you get there. And that's another thing. Sebastian and I and Davis really understand is we have to develop coaches, because if you develop and invest in developing coaches, then players, A, stay longer, B, learn more, C, they don't leave. They want to stay. And when they are ready to leave, other kids have seen, like Breezy's our coach. He's been our coach. He's got his licenses. He really wants to, he's investing in us, not as football players, but he's pouring into us as human beings. And so those really are the things that we now have to, and I said this to our staff, we have grown by addition this last 18 months. Now we have to grow by efficiency the next 18 months and then thereon.
All right. I'm trying to think about, here's when I think, Breezy, you wrote this question a while back that we never got to. It says, in your opening remarks to the media, this is when you were first hired, at the Moxie.
A lot's happened since then.
You mentioned 5 affirmations that you give yourself every morning. Would you be open to talking about those a little bit more? Sure.
There isn't a day that goes by that here's a kind of off topic. In 1997, I learned about transcendental meditation, which is, some people kind of go, yeah, okay, what's that mean? Does he sit cross-legged with incense and, chants and all that? No, meditation is something that allows thoughts to come and thoughts to go. But affirmations stay with you. And so all of my affirmations are about me and how I can go about being the best version of myself. Like most human beings, I'm flawed. I'm not perfect. I think for the most part in my life, I have been really good at getting along with folks. I'm also a competitor, which sometimes makes it so you don't get along with people. But
part of competition.
Yes. So the affirmations have always been part of every morning, reminding yourself that, yeah, you are the best. And you're the best at what you are doing at that time. You're also the best father and the best husband and the best friend that I can be, that I can do it. 100% of the people who said, why does he want a soccer job? Even my friends, what are you doing? Have you lost your mind? No, because I can do this. Because what I do is transferable. I like to help people. I like to facilitate people being successful. I want everybody to eat and do well. I'm a point guard, and what do great point guards do?
They make teams better.
So I can do that. And, that's not without its challenges, because sometimes you want more for people than they want for themselves. And so it's I just want to encourage you. It's okay. It's okay. You can do this. I know that every day God is on my side and God is with me wherever I travel to. How else can you explain that a kid from San Francisco goes from San Francisco to New York to London to Edinburgh to Manchester to Sacramento to Atlanta to Chattanooga to New York again to Long Island? And I travel blessed. I travel covered. I feel like, when I get off a plane and I go to London and I go and see my kids in London, nothing's going to happen to me, right? I know my way around London, but I feel covered. I know that so much of what I am blessed with, I'm blessed and been given the opportunity to do. I don't have to do it. I get to do it. And I always remind myself, you don't have to do this, but there are a lot of people that would like to be doing what you do. There's some that don't want to do what you're doing because it means managing people. My wife worked for the state of California for 30 some odd years. And I said, why aren't you a director or a man? She's like, I'm good. I have enough trouble managing myself.
That's someone who knows themselves.
I don't know.
Some good self-control.
Yeah, I don't know if I can manage a bunch of other people who might have bigger issues than I have. But I try and be a good listener. Again, I'm a human being, so therefore I'm flawed. But I try and be a good listener. I try and hear people give me advice. I have some experience of failure, and I know what it's like to fail, right? I don't think anybody who's successful who hasn't failed has if you haven't failed once or twice, you haven't had disruption in your life for one reason or another, then you're not really trying. So those affirmations stick with me. You know, they go where I go. They help me manage the challenges I face, and I'm grateful for them.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. What was the high point for you for the 2024 season?
I think there were multiple high points, but I think the continued growth of fan attendance was successful. I think the growth of merchandise, collaborations, and ideas was growth. Did it grow as fast as we all wanted? No, but I think we tried some things that worked and were kind of cool. I think the growth of some of our staff, kids like Sam Click, who 3 years ago was living in a caravan somewhere.
Just down the road right here, actually.
Yeah. And, he's the embodiment of this club. He A, loves the club, B, loves to learn, C, he's super smart, and he is willing. He is a willing learner. He is a willing teammate. He is a supportive, so these high points that come are really people focused, what we have done, growing someone like Danica, who was a freelancer and now is chief of staff, those things. But I think attendance growth, I think our partnership growth, and the fact that people didn't look at us like we were crazy when we said, thank you for being a partner. We think your investment would be better suited somewhere else, so that it allowed us to go bigger, find different partners, but ask them and prove that we could deliver value year round. That's a big win. Our continued relationship with Brian at Finley, from what I understand before I got here, was an interesting dynamic, but Brian has been phenomenal. He and Tyler help us. They don't impede us. They don't provide obstacles for us. They work with us on everything.
And they're almost twins.
Like, you see them riding around in one of those little trailers, it looks like Brian. No, that's Tyler. Okay.
I came up behind Tyler at not having met him and grabbed him by the shoulders, and the way you do a friend, because Brian and I are friends, and I thought it was Brian, and it was not. Yeah. Luckily, Tyler, I think it's not the first time that somebody has mistaken them.
But that relationship, the biggest relationship we have is with Finley.
Yeah.
Without Finley, we're a different club, a completely different club.
It's home.
Yeah. So that is a high point. I think we were competitive on the field for most of the year. And, most teams have highs and lows, I've been in the NBA. I've seen teams lose 15 in a row and win 18 in a row in the same season. What is going on here? And I think at the end of the day, we learned a lot about who we were and who we wanted to be. And change is hard, but it was a high point for us to be successful. And when it got to a stage where we needed to make a change, we did. And that, to me, that's progress. It's painful at the time, but it needed to happen.
Do you think, I was going to ask you about the low point. Do you think the low point is having to make that kind of change?
Well, of course. I mean, Rod's a good man. I'm not saying he's not a good man, but, time was up. And we had to make that decision. the results said we needed to make that decision. And I think at the end of the day, we did what was right for the club. And Rod had a run of success here. He built a foundation that we are now building on. And he took the foundation from Bill and everybody before him to build on. So I don't know that it was a low point. I think everybody was disappointed. But we also, you make decisions that, time will tell whether we made the right one. But we made it in real time. And we made it with some level of knowledge of where we wanted to go and why weren't we getting there. And that was it.
If you could assign the men's team a letter grade on the field, what would it be?
In 2024.
I look at it with a wider lens than just the results. So I ask myself questions. Did we make progress? Yes. I ask myself, did we win enough? Yes, for most of the year. We had 6 weeks where we didn't win a game. But the first 7 weeks, we were
on fire.
Yeah, we were the best team in the league. We were ranked number 1 in the power rankings. Everybody was like, is this what it's going to be like? And so I would say by letter grade B minus. If you'd asked me in June, I would have said A minus. And if you'd asked me in September, I would have said C minus. So I think if you take all of that B minus, we made progress. We are better for the experience we had. I think we learned a lot about the league and the quality of players, the youth of the league, the athleticism of the league. MLS Next Pro is not NISA. I watched some games. I was like, the 3 of us and 10 friends could have put a team in NISA, and we might have been competitive.
By the way, don't say that out loud too much. You're going to get a phone call all of a sudden.
about starting a NISA team?
Yes.
From John Pruch?
Yeah. We good.
Yeah. Josh, the wire's on its way. Okay?
Yeah. I'm not putting that out in the universe.
Well, speaking of, we don't have to go into it, but there's 17 UPSL teams in this city right now. Yeah. So that's a topic for a different day. But there's you can put together a team with you and 10 friends if you want to.
Well, you can. Yep. You certainly can. But we made progress. So I would have said B minus. And, to start the season, we played well. To end the season, we weren't playing well. And, I don't know that we should make more or less. Everybody would love to be peaking at the right time. North Texas peaked the entire year.
Did they?
Real good.
Yeah. So, but I'm sure that there's some continuity that tends to happen that, people should not take lightly the opportunity to build something with continuity, because that becomes real. Successful teams have continuity. Mm-hmm. They have guys that have played in the system. They know the system. They know the city. They know the field. They know where the divots are in the field. They know the dead spots. They know everywhere, and that helps. And so, yeah, B minus.
Okay. What about the women's team?
I think the women's team made more progress than people think. And again, I want to give a shout out to Tommy. I think he did the best he could with the resources he had, and we, quite frankly, gave more resources this year, or I should say in 2024, than we did the previous years. So I would give the women's team a C plus. With the intent, we also had a really young team, and I think we probably will recruit differently for the 2025 season that might take that C plus to a B plus, A minus. I also think, you've got coaches, not that, Tommy's a coach at Barry College, but, adding Sebastian and Marin Butler and you're probably it's going to be far more competitive, and we're probably going to have better players and recruit purposefully for a competitive season.
Okay. Overall club grade on the field, both teams, and off the field. We can throw the academy in there too.
I would say B for the progress we made. I think we have a long way to go to get to an A, but I'm not a harsh grader because I tend to look at the wider picture. I think we've developed new fans. I think we've increased, just the stats you talked about. Partnership has grown, ticket sales has grown, people have grown, our staff has learned and in a continuous learning. We have a new coach in Chris. We have a new technical director in Sebastian. I think where we were and where we are going is B level.
Can you talk about because I should have asked this earlier, the decision to split the head coach and sporting director jobs into two different jobs?
Yep.
Can you talk about the rationale behind that structural change?
Yeah, I think that was brought on, quite frankly, by the change in leagues. I think what you could do in NISA and what you could do in MLS Next Pro are radically different. You know, even we had to upgrade our player care. We'd never hired a athletic trainer full time.
Well, we had a part-time one.
Yeah. Now we have 2 athletic trainers, and we're going to need to add 2 more for MLS Next. So if you think about where we were and the expectations of MLS Next Pro, you have to upgrade. If you're going to be professional, you got to be professional. And I think players expect that. I think coaches expect that. I think Davis expects that. I think he wants to win. And to do that, there's investments that need to be made. And I think the investment part is why we decided to split the 2 roles. I think we did the sporting director coach for NISA because
it's what made sense at the time.
It made sense at the time. I think with MLS, I think the coach should be coaching and not negotiating deals and working with agents and trying to do all of these things that most of the time coaches aren't comfortable in doing, because you got to negotiate a deal with your agent and then you got to coach the same guy, and you're doing that with 25 players. It's impractical. So Davis and I started talking about it, early in the year, and we just came to the decision that would be the best thing for the club, to have somebody who could oversee the coaching staff and really try and negotiate so that there's a division of responsibilities that made sense. And ultimately, the sporting director makes the final call, or the technical director will make the final call on composition. But you hope that the technical director and the coach are on the, I like this player, I don't like this player, and they agree to disagree, and they move on. And it makes sense because in every other professional sport, there's a general manager and a head coach. And we're professional now, and so we need to do that.
Okay. Breezy, do you have anything?
I could ask 5 million more questions, but I think this is a good time to leave it off, especially because I think we're probably coming towards a hard out. But Alton, is there anything we didn't ask you about that we wish you would have asked you about today?
That's a hard question because, look, I think where we are as a club, we're still growing. I hope, what I've always hoped is that not only, our fans, but the city understands that, we're growing, and sometimes it's a little painful. But it's for the betterment of the club. And the club is more important than anything I say or do. It's bigger than Davis as an owner. It's like the club
bigger than any one person.
Yeah, the club is the club. Nobody understands that more than I do. and the good fortune and blessings that I have to be here now, be here today, and help grow. I kind of hope people understand that I never make a decision on direction or values without input. And sometimes there are things that you make decisions on that people know, why did he do that? And they don't know the whole story. They know the part of the story they heard from somebody else and it's never what you think. Sometimes it's more than what you think, and that sometimes your choices are somewhat limited. But how grateful I am personally, I know my wife and my kids, even my son, who's a United supporter, God bless him, who understand that, I'm not only fortunate to have landed here where football is important, and more important is that people are important to football. And football it drives why we're here, but I think what you see is that people and humanity is more important to this city. The club happens to be the vehicle by which we do that and unite this city. And so, yeah, I am hopeful, and I've been hopeful since I got here. And I think there is so much upside to this club and to this city, and look at how far we have come, in the last 2 years, even before I got here. Like, think about when I got here in June, you guys were undefeated. Matter of fact, you were the only undefeated club in the United States. And you went on to be undefeated until that dreadful day in October and November, whenever we lost. But think about, what we, that means me and you, Breezy, and Matt, have pulled together in 18 months. Think about how much work we have done. And it's not till you sit and you go, yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know you guys had done 160 some odd community events. I didn't know ticket sales were up ticket sales revenue was up 48%. Like, people might see it as, well, was that a low barrier or was that a medium barrier? I think it was a pretty high barrier given where this club was as an independent club. It's a pretty high barrier. And that's all because people like you guys and our staff have worked together to build something that is sustainable. And we have a long way to go to make it even more sustainable. So,
man, I am pumped for 2025. Listeners, viewers, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we will see you at Finley Stadium, hopefully very, very soon.
Charouts are January 11th.
yes.
Are those open to the public?
Yes, they are.
All right, come watch not Matthew. Come watch Roberto. Come watch Roberto Calories. Some of you might know who that is. That's a listener of this podcast. Compete in tryouts. See you, everybody.